Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hello Zafigo. This is the 6th episode of our second season and the 12th since we started in April, and it's also the final one for the year. And I'd like to welcome all of you this afternoon. Thank you for sparing your time to spend with us. I particularly want to welcome all the new names that I see here. I hope it's not your first time, but none of the names look very familiar. So welcome anyway to our final Hello Zafigo today. Just some housekeeping. We're going to keep all of you, except me and the speakers, muted, and also keep your cameras off, just so that we can concentrate on our conversation or my conversation with our two speakers today. Particularly important to keep you muted because, as you may know already, if you so much as sneeze or cough, we'll hear you. And, if your kids come into the room and all that sort of thing, we'll see you. And it's cute, but it's also distracting. So, but at the end, when we finish with everything, right at the end, around 4 o'clock, thereabouts, we'll ask you to switch on all your cameras so that we can take a group photo, which is something fun we like to do every episode. And also this time, we're doing something a bit different. We're going to have a poll at the end to ask you what you think about Hello Zafigo and whether you want us to continue in the new year. Those of you who are new to zafigo.com, we are a website that talks about women and travel and giving tips on not just places to go and what to do when you're there, but also about issues regarding travel that are particularly relevant to women, such as safety, such as do's and don'ts, and all sorts of interesting things that you can do beyond the usual travel routes, tourism routes, and all that. And particularly for the very many women that we've discovered who like to travel solo. And of course, this year has been a big damper on tourism and travel, but we decided that we'll go online like everyone else. Instead of having in-person events like we do every year called Zafigo X. And that's how Hello Zafigo started and how we've been doing all these wonderful, wonderful forums with amazing speakers to come and share with you their experiences in travel, plus the various tips and suggestions and recommendations on travel once it all opens again. Now, having said that, I'm sure you are all like me, getting itchy feet and just wondering when all this is going to end, when we'll start to move again, not just around the country, but also abroad. I must say that I've been seeing some videos and pictures of aeroplanes and feeling really, really, I don't know, plane sick, if that's the equivalent of homesick. I mean, it's been so long since I've been on a plane, and I'm one of the strange people who actually loves flights. The longer the better, simply because it cuts me off from everyone else and I can finally do what I want during those hours. And I actually miss it. So I'm dying to know when I can do that again. So today we have two speakers who are hopefully going to give us some idea, hopefully good, of when we can finally book our tickets and get moving again. So basically, what will 2021 look like after a whole year of us not moving at all? And right now, particularly in Malaysia, in places like KL, basically we can only move around town and not even into the next district. So I think the big news for most of us, what we're waiting for, is to know when we can get out there again. Someone's not muted. Queenie, I think. Would you mind muting your mic, please? Thank you. So hopefully, with news of the vaccine and everything, the world will recover and travel will become a thing again. Probably not as good as we've had it in the past few years, but important, I think, because there's so many repercussions of not being able to travel, not just for tourism, but of course, trade and everything. So today, our last session, we have two very interesting speakers for you. And I'd just like to introduce them both first, and then we'll let them talk a bit about their thoughts on travel in 2021. So our first speaker I'd like to introduce to you is Rohan Raghavan, who is the industry lead for travel at Google. Rohan leads the travel sector at Google Malaysia as an industry manager. And in his role, he works with the largest travel brands in the country, consulting on their digital marketing strategies, tech adoption and evolution, and efficiency improvement. And hopefully he will explain what all that means in a while. Specific areas of interest and focus include personalized communication, automation, cloud-based marketing, and digital upskilling at the CXO level. That's new for me. And he's also an ardent traveler. In fact, we don't entertain non-travelers here anyway. And has visited 25 countries. And I was just telling him that his top 4 travel magic moments probably are at the bottom of my list. But a lot of guys will probably identify because they include watching his favorite football club, Man U, play live at Old Trafford, and visiting the Ferrari factory in Maranello, Italy. And he says he lives and breathes the business of technology and firmly believes it's here to make our lives better. Well, I sure hope so, Rohan. And our other speaker is Emily Tan, who is the marketing lead for Klook Malaysia, where she's responsible for driving rapid user acquisition and revenue growth for the company through a combination of scalable marketing efforts, strategic partnerships, and on-ground initiatives. So she hopes to enable more Malaysians to book and plan their travels seamlessly. Before joining Klook, she worked with travel and tech-centric market leaders such as AirAsia and Maxis. And her passion lies in harnessing data-driven and innovative marketing strategies to positively impact consumers and grow borderless businesses. In normal life, she actually enjoys running, she says, and has completed 4 full marathons so far, which is not normal. But but she lives by the wisdom, which I kind of like, of resilience is not about how you recharge, but how you endure. And that really sounds like a runner to me. So let's start with Rohan. Rohan, can you speak to us about what is it that you've been doing at Google that, is related to travel? That's your area. And how do you see the future for travel, please?
Sure. Thanks, Marina. Afternoon, everyone. And I also now realize that my travel profile is a lot more interesting than what my work profile is from the way Marina read it out. A lot of fluff, but good to speak to you all today. Super honored and extremely glad to be here sharing the virtual stage with Marina and Emily, and all of you who've taken the time out to come listen to us and speak to us about what 2021 is going to have. So my name's Rohan. I lead up the travel vertical here at Google Malaysia. We work with, like Marina said, a lot of the large travel brands who have local and international presence on just how they reach customers better, what's the kind of messaging that they put out to their users and customers, and give them the best possible experience on their day-to-day travel experiences. In line, before I actually talk about where or the trends that we see for the upcoming year, I just want to very quickly touch upon a program that we work on here at Google called Mahir Digital Bersama Google. I'm hoping everyone can see my screen. I've got just a few slides to show you. So Mahir Digital is a local program that we run here in Malaysia under the global Google umbrella of Grow with Google. Essentially, very simply put, through this pandemic, what we wanted to try and do is equip Malaysians, to find jobs, advance their careers, and really grow their business through free trainings and tools. So the link is on the slide if you want to check it out later. There are tons of resources on everything from growing your business online, digital marketing, analytics. It's all in there. We've seen a tremendous pivot and shift to the digital world, especially in COVID-19 sort of accelerated that. So there are tons of free resources in there for anyone to go and check out. Free, students, recent graduates, job seekers, small business owners, anyone, it's all available. So with that, in the past few months, we've been doing a lot of research, my team, our wider team of analysts in the region on the travel space and what are the changing behaviors, not just in Malaysia, but across the Southeast Asia region, APAC, and even globally. And I honestly we had like a 40-slide white paper on this, and Marina really fainted when I said that. So I'm going to spare you all the gruesome details and give you my top 2-3 takeaways of what we're seeing as trends that are growing. Which, look, I think forecasting what 2021 is going to hold is like looking into a crystal ball. I wish I could do it. If I had that ability, I probably wouldn't be doing my day job. But what we're going to try and tell you is let's look back a little objectively at 2020 and see what are the changes, because, just look around you. Stuff's different from what it was in January. So we'll try and use some of these trends as a sort of indicator as to what 2021 might hold. And potentially, if we get proved wrong in Feb 2021, I'll be the happiest person out there. So just quickly look back, right? If you see how our industry, the travel industry, has sort of changed, we've always found that, how people search online is a great indicator of what they're feeling, what they're thinking, and just what's happening in the world. So this is a chart I love, not because of the direction that it goes in, but it so beautifully maps what's exactly happening in our world from a flight and hotel standpoint to everything that's happening in Malaysia from January, where everything was fine, MCO, CMCO, RMCO, and again, CMCO again now. And so what we've seen is, look, flight demand, unfortunately, much like Marina, I love flying. I love sitting in an aircraft as well. Has taken quite a beating, and it's stayed there. There's still a lot of concern around getting on a flight, which I find interesting, because flights are probably the safest places you could be in at this point in time. Potentially, it's more linked to airports than airplanes itself, but people have actually started, staying in hotels, going and looking up where they could stay for short-term rentals, hotels, as we've gone into different stages of lockdown. So travel isn't suppressed completely. It's just taking new forms and new ways. Coming out of this, one of the interesting trends, I know Emily will probably talk about it in a little bit, is this whole concept of staycation. And it's so interesting, right? In RMC, I was just telling everyone on the call before you joined in, my wife and I, with a few friends, we visited over 4 places just in RMCO alone. Genting was 2 trips. Genting always used to be a day trip for us. Go up there, hit the premium outlets, hit the resort on top, and come back down by night. We started making weekend trips out of them, working trips out of them. So we're going there on a Thursday, Friday, working from there, and then spending the weekend and then coming back. Something we wouldn't have necessarily done before. So this whole concept of staycation, everyone's boxed in at home, heading out somewhere, enjoying a nice, a dip in a pool with a nice view, is a trend that's increasingly picking up amongst Malaysians. I think it's very, very interesting to see, especially around RMCO when there's a little bit of flex. But even now, within, say, if you're based in KL, you can still move around the city. Even now, there's a fair bit of, fair few hotels are offering, work from hotel packages, staycation packages, which are well priced and give you a sense of just getting out of your house a little bit. So there is pent up travel demand, and people are just looking to get out there and experience travel in a sort of novel, new sort of way. So just fun fact for all of you, we've been looking at a lot of our Google Maps data, right? So a lot of us use Google Maps to navigate around the place. If you compare January, which was pre-COVID, to now, the number of people navigating to their workplaces is just 20% lower, which means that 80% of all navigations of people going back to work has already happened. So people are going back to work, right? I live in KL Central. I step out, the complexes are filled with employees. So people are back to work. They can't necessarily go very far because of regulations and just, that they only have weekends to travel to now. So as a result, they're exploring a lot more of what the country within their city has to offer. The other trend that we're seeing picking up for people who are getting out is this whole domestic tourism push. The government's sort of pushing this out. Travel companies are pushing that, and I think it's absolutely incredible. Malaysians are finally becoming tourists in their own country, which is a concept which I think is incredible. Okay, I've been in Malaysia for about 3.5 years now. I lived in India for all my life before that. It took me 23.5 years to go and visit the Taj Mahal, which is a wonder of the world. Okay, there are 7 of them, and it took me 23 years before I went and saw it. It took me 4 days of being in KL to check out Bukit Bintang and Changkat and KLCC. So I'm square. I call Malaysia home, but I'm a firm tourist here. I love checking out the corners of Malaysia that are unexplored, and it's great to see Malaysians doing that as well. It's the only option, but it's a great option. There's so much to see. So while we find that places like KL, Malacca, Georgetown, Langkawi, Terengganu wouldn't come as a surprise to you, are now destinations that are coming much more in vogue when you can't visit the Tokyos, Seoul, Singapores, and Indias of the world. A few other key takeaways which I thought you might find interesting. One bit of the picture is this sort of recovery of travel, right? It's going to be a long process. It's going to take long. Let's not shy away from that fact. Most companies that you talk to globally will tell you it's going to take at least a few years. So while I'm showing you these charts with all these spikes and recovery and stuff like that, when we surveyed over 300 Malaysians, only 25%, so 1 out of every 4, said that they're looking forward to traveling domestically in the next 1 year. 75% we're not even considering it in the next 365 days, and that's domestic travel. So that's still a worrying stat for someone like me who's closely working in the industry. Of the people who did say they're traveling, family bonding, almost 1 in 4 say that that's going to be a reason. So it's, a lot of people are looking to connect with old friends and family. So that's a key reason for them to travel. And interestingly, we've always known, all our research has shown that Malaysians have always been very price-conscious travelers, much like us Indians. But in the light of COVID, the price of a package or a travel product or a solution is now just as important as cleanliness, hygiene, flexibility, and the ability to get customer service when their trip is canceled or otherwise. They're valuing that just as important. So going into 2021, like I said, if I had my crystal ball in front of me, it would still be pretty foggy. But broadly, I see 3 types of travelers emerging. There are those who can't wait to get traveling again and will brave COVID-19 to visit new places. Right? They're the types who will wear the mask, be safe, but they will be out there. RMCO, they're out there. The second bucket are those who want to travel, love traveling, but are going to be incredibly cautious and careful before they do. And I fall squarely in that bucket. And then there's the third, who unfortunately we're seeing right now is a large majority, for whom travel has gone to the bottom of their priority list, just from a safety, health standard, and from just an economic standard as well. So my hope for 2021, to wrap up before I pass to Emily, my hope for 2021 is that we have a lot more people in that second bucket of cautious travelers who want to explore but are doing it safely because it's the right thing to do for themselves and for everyone else. But what we also need are travel companies and travel businesses supporting those travelers with cleanliness standards, with clear communication, so that together we're all able to go out and do what we love, which is visit new places, try new food, experience new cultures, and make memories together. So I look forward to hearing Emily's thoughts. I pass on to her, and look forward to hearing your thoughts and questions as well. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Rohan. That is really informative, and I have a lot of questions, but I'll save it for later, because you've really flagged some very, very interesting statistics about the way people are thinking about travel. But let's just go to Emily now. Emily, first of all, can you explain what Klook is all about? And are you seeing the same trends as Rohan is, or are there any differences at all?
Yeah. Hi, Marina. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so I'm Emily, and I lead marketing for Klook in Malaysia. So for those of you who don't know, Klook is an online platform that helps travelers to discover and book interesting things to do, eat, and see, wherever they may be, right? So this would include things like attractions and theme parks, as well as cooking classes or Instagrammable tours, right? And also, even things to help travelers get around, right? As soon as they arrive at the destination, like an airport pickup or a train or a ferry ticket. Yeah. So we've also recently added things like hotels, staycations, events, and movies on the platform as well. Yeah. So that's Klook in a nutshell. Yeah. So as with the trends, right? I think we're seeing very similar trends from our internal data as well. One thing that stood out in Rohan's presentation was that keyword on staycations. Yes. So with what's going on in the world right now, we think that the road to recovery will be long and hard for sure, right? So domestic will be here to stay for a while. And during the recovery period, RMCO, we saw queries and bookings coming in for many local destinations that Rohan mentioned in his presentation as well, like places like Langkawi, Penang, Malacca, Johor, right? All saw surges in search volumes as well as bookings. Yeah, so staycation is definitely here to stay, and not just staycations as well, but also outdoor activities, nature escapes, and also glamping, right? So, for example, Tiarasa and Janda Baik, which I'm looking forward to do as well. I've booked a Tiarasa staycation package, a glamping package on Klook, right? So for those of you who are interested, you can also, go and check it out. And yes, it's definitely. So we saw for Klook, we saw that trend early during MCO, and that's why we work with a lot of local hospitality partners like hotels and attractions, right, to offer not just a room stay, but also add on, and also add on complementary things that people would want to look for when they go on a short trip, right? So that could be attraction, ticket bundle, a spa or massage experience, or even food and beverage, like a high tea that you could enjoy along with vacation experience as well. Yeah, so that's something that we now offer on our platform, and it's definitely in line with what consumers want.
Thank you, Emily. So, yes, I can't. Can all of you make sure? Yeah, you're muted. Okay. For some reason I can't mute the non-speakers, so you'll have to do it yourself. But let's get into it, because as you may have seen, if you don't mute, any noise you make, you will suddenly pop up on the screen, and that's a little bit embarrassing. Rohan, I just wanted to ask you just some very quick things. One, this Mahir Digital, is that just about travel, or is it about everything?
It's about everything. So initially Grow with Google, which is the global umbrella, was a program that's very close to our CEO Sundar Pichai's sort of heart. It's essentially a program to help upskill people on digital skill sets to help them get more employable, right? Whether those are people who've either lost their jobs or fresh grads or students, whoever it might be. The travel portion, so we know that the travel industry has taken a bit of a hit because of COVID, right? It's unfortunately one of the most affected. So specifically for in line with that, we've partnered with MATA, so the Travel and Tour Operators Association, and with MDEC, so the Malaysian Digital Economy Corporation. So to create a travel specific plan program, where we talk a little more in depth about, identifying trends specific to travel. If you've got a physical establishment on the map, how do you put out the right kind of communication and information to your customers who are looking for you? And it helps you essentially manage your entire digital presence, specifically if you're a travel tour operator, small business owner, so on and so forth. So it's all available. You just need to search for Mahir Digital Bersama Google on Google search, and you'll find the first link up there. It's all content is available for free.
But what do you think, like a hotel or a resort or whatever, what sort of content should they be putting up nowadays that would make them more attractive to people? I mean, either of you, you would know that. What should they put out?
Sure, I can quickly touch upon this. So, I can speak for myself. Like even when I cautiously travel to these days, even during CMCO within KL, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's a hotel, whether it's even a mall, I want to know, what are the safety checks that are being put in place? Is there proper temperature screening? Are your, restaurant delivery riders being temperature checked before they carry food to me? There are different aspects of any sort of service industry, especially where there are people involved, which have got users and consumers really thinking and questioning, right? Every extra person in the chain is an extra chance for me to get sick, potentially. I'm just being very blunt about it. So when you have a map listing on Google Maps, right, or let's say you're searching for your favorite restaurant or hotel or pub, all the information that you see, opening hours, menu, all of that stuff is put up by the restaurant or the hotel. So they can curate their own information. And we're now giving them opportunities to put COVID-19 specific posts up. So let's say I'm a hotel. I was closed during CMCO. I've now reopened. I can put up a specific COVID-19 based post saying, hey guys, from 10th of November, I'm open. These are all the things that we're doing to keep you, your family, your friends safe. So come in with an open mind, and you can, we will take care of you. If I'm a restaurant and I'm doing only takeaways, I can mark that on my listing saying, don't come in for dine-in, don't come in for delivery. We don't do delivery, but we do takeaway, a little checkbox again. So call me up, come pick up the food and go home. So as businesses evolve their business models, we want to give them the ability to communicate that easily and quickly to people who are looking for their services.
Right. Emily, are you finding that among the people who go through Klook, are you getting a sense of what is it that they're most concerned about when they want to book anything? Is it the same? Is it about health and safety first, or price, or what?
Yeah, so right now, I mean, with the high infection rate that we see for COVID-19, there's definitely a lot of emphasis placed on public health, safety, and hygiene. So I think moving forward, these are definitely non-negotiables, right? So we have worked very closely with our merchant partners to ensure that we are able to, update information very quickly regarding their opening hours, right, and the type of safety and hygiene measures that they are taking at their premise, right, similar to what Rohan has mentioned. So we do have those information available on our website for each of our attraction partners, be it or hotel partners. So those are clearly stated to give people peace of mind before they decide to make their purchase, right? The other thing that we're using technology really to assist both our partners as well as our customers is our mobile booking system, right, where we are able to actually support capacity control. So this is in adherence to what the government has in place as well, where to avoid people overcrowding at one place and to reduce the risk of transmission, right, we do need to set certain limits as to how many people can be at one place at a specific time, right? So we are able to support an attraction like, let's say, Aquaria KLCC, right, to only restrict the number of tickets that are sold at a particular time slot. Yeah, so actually things like that, like this digitalization and these tools that we already have really allow merchant partners to actually transition very seamlessly into a post-COVID world. And these are, yeah.
But a lot of these health and safety regulations are mandated by the government and things like that. But is there some sort of rating system on whether people's compliance? I mean, or the venue's compliance. Because we've gotten so used to it that I think we're almost blasé. Okay, you have to scan the QR code and you get your temperature taken, but what does it actually mean? If we still have, we had all these issues in malls and things. So how do we actually know that are there reviews? Do people do reviews, or whether what they say is true or not?
Yeah, I wonder about that too as well, right, as a consumer myself. Of course, things like standardization will take some time to be put in place. I don't think there really is a single regulation or even regulator going around to ensure that these are being adhered to. But I know that, let's say, Malaysian Association of Hotels have been working on some sort of standardization to ensure that all the partners within the association adhere to the same set of SOPs and hygiene standards. So I think this is they've made very, very good progress on that, right? As to you brought out a good point of reviews, right? So what else can we do, right? We really take their word for it, right? And as consumers, yes, we sometimes would have our doubts as well. So that's why we turn to things like reviews for that reassurance. And yes, Klook does actually have real user reviews as well for every thing that we have for every activity that is sold on our platform. And there's a star rating that people could provide, as well as qualitative remarks and even images, right? And that review portion really provides that additional sense of security for people, before they actually make their purchase.
Right. Rohan, you were saying that when people are selecting, where they're going to go and all that, that cleanliness is going to be important, but price as well. I'm just wondering whether the cleanliness standards and everything that they need to do to ensure health and safety is actually going to add to the price. Because, like airlines, the price of tickets have gone crazy, right? So is that happening with hotels? And what is the balance? Because obviously if it's too expensive, people are not going to go also, right? So what is the right balance?
Absolutely. I think that's, I was just thinking, I was telling my wife the other day, I had to spend 5 ringgit more for my last haircut because of the PPE and the spray down that they gave me with the sanitizer, right? Which was arguably a large chunk of the cost of the haircut itself,
Right.
So I think, look, there are, like you said, it's absolutely a balance that we need to find. I think there are ways and means to sort of counteract this whole thing. I think it's finding business models that sort of work for customers while still working for the business itself. So if you take hotels, for example, I was reading, you brought up an example of Langkawi. I was reading on a forum that there are hotels in Langkawi who are effectively offering you a room for the full month at a much, much lower rate, right? So they're saying rather than staying at home and paying rent for a month, or potentially think of it like rent for a month, but you get to stay in a hotel room, you live somewhere else, and it's a long-term stay. So the hotel room itself is much cheaper, but they make money because they have you locked in for a longer period of time. With when it comes to things like flights, um, it's very tricky, right? I've heard both sides of this equation. I work with some of our airline partners, and I've heard both sides of that equation, right? One saying, look, if it's not cheap, people won't be inspired to travel. People won't. There has to be something that gives, right? It can't be. It's unsafe. It's expensive. It's complicated procedures. Everything can't be a negative, and you expect people to still board. I've also heard the other side of that equation, which says, look, people are willing to pay a premium. If people are willing to pay to stay safe, so there are folks like yourself, like me, who want to get out there, want to go, and if I have to pay a few $100 more for a ticket, I'll do it. So I think at the end of the day, any brand, any sort of establishment really has to figure out what works for them in the kind of offering that they do. You've got the Shangri-La, which is offering a room for 200 ringgit, and you can stay there the whole day, but not the night, right? You stay there the whole day, you work from there, and you come back home. So yes, you get to experience the Shangri-La experience, but you're not paying the necessary, $700 that they would charge. You could argue that, maybe they're using this to sort of as a revenue stream, no doubt. But end of the day, I would be very, very mindful about compromising safety, health, and quality, like what Emily said, just for price. It's a tough balance to find, but it needs to weigh heavier on the side of health and safety, at least at this point in time.
Yeah.
Until there's a vaccine, at least at this point in time, that needs to take preference. And we can see that in our results. We can see that in our surveys. Malaysians are willing to pay a little bit more as long as they get a bit more security in their head.
Right. Okay, we've got questions now coming in the chat group. So let me ask Emily, there's a question for you from E.T. Kwa. Does Klook set guidelines for all their suppliers in other countries? Same guidelines for all suppliers so that clients are familiar with their safety issues. That's difficult, right? Because every country has different guidelines. So how do you, I mean, not that we can actually leave the country right now, but even so, that when we can, how are you going to negotiate that? How are you going to navigate that?
Yeah, so that was definitely a challenge for Klook, right? As a global brand with a presence in about 20 markets worldwide. So every country is actually going through a very different stage of recovery and lockdown, right? Some has gone to lockdown and then emerge from that or go into a second or third or fourth wave. Yeah, so that's the challenge that we face in many different countries. And safety and hygiene guidelines are all set by local health authorities. But we do actually have a set of recommended guidelines that we send out to all our merchant partners, right? And we get them to actually look through and let us know which ones they're complying with. And with this same set of information is actually updated onto our platform to share with our consumers. Yeah. So yeah, that's actually something that we've been doing from the start of COVID in all our with all our suppliers as well as merchant partners in all the countries.
So basically that people should have a checklist when they want to book, right? Like these are the things that they should tick off for every place that they want to go to. Would that be?
Yeah, so I think businesses would have should already have a baseline of hygiene SOPs that they are already complying with. Yeah, so that could differ from country to country depending on really local regulations for sure, right? But I think at the very least, as consumers, as Klook, we do understand that consumers would look for definitely a set of basic sanitization for sure, temperature checks, and that mask wearing is mandatory when you enter their premise. Yeah, so as long as these things are, I think, checked off, yeah, it will give people that reassurance and peace of mind.
Okay. Another question from Elton: is there a current standard known by the speakers on which places are considered to be traveler safe status, like certain travel spots that really comply with health authority status? I'm assuming you mean within Malaysia and not yet overseas, but yeah, are there Actually, it's a bit strange, isn't it? Because if a place is very considered safe, then a lot more people flock there. And then by definition, they become just a little bit more unsafe, isn't it? It's really a dilemma, no? Like
Yeah,
that.
but I think another way to look at it is that people would actually very much prefer maybe open spaces, areas
Yeah.
that are less congested, less crowded, right? Those will definitely have that those are the places that people would prefer over indoor places, crowded areas. Yeah, so that's why we see a lot of outdoor and nature-based activities seeing quite a surge in interest and bookings, right? From hiking, from glamping to whitewater rafting, right? So those things will continue to rise, in the next couple of months or even years.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think just to kind of corroborate that, right? Like, yeah, absolutely. People are looking at slightly more nature-focused venues. But, Elton, I think you've raised an interesting point here, right? Like our current standards of places that are conforming to these norms. And look, there's very rarely going to be a place or an establishment that's going to say we're not conforming to these norms, right?
Right. Yeah.
So if I own a restaurant, I'm going to say I'm doing everything on the planet to keep you safe because I need customers. That's the blunt truth.
Yeah.
But what we have also noticed is, by the magic of the internet and everyone having one of these little things in their hand, is sort of democratization of data as well and information a little bit. So Emily touched upon customer reviews. Now, more so than ever, please leave reviews for things. If you think things are not positive and negative, right? If you think a place or a location is doing a great job in controlling, so it's in mandating social distancing, mask wearing, so on and so forth, call it out on social media, call it out on various forums and platforms, and vice versa. I think we should hold businesses to higher standards. If you think somebody is not conforming to something, call it out as well. So at least within your immediate group of connections and your network, they hear about it. Hopefully, they share it further, and people get information. It's upon us. It's upon businesses to enforce these things for themselves, but it's also upon us as travelers to keep them honest and keep each other informed about these things.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, nowadays I make sure I read reviews, because it's become more important than it ever was. So here's a question from Abdul Rahman. So economic activities correlate well with people's movement. I mean, that's really been hammered home to us. To what extent does Google or Klook help small businesses to overcome the current very difficult economic situation? Are there any particular things that you do?
Sure, I can just maybe kick this off with a few thoughts. Absolutely fair thought. What we've also been seeing in the past few months is a lot more people coming online for the first time, buying services online, e-commerce shopping for the first time, purchasing their first ever item on a website or on an app, right? Using their credit card online for the first time. We recently published a report with Bain and Company, the consulting house, and Temasek for all of Southeast Asia. And we've specifically looked at the GDP impact, so the impact of COVID-19 on the economy. And one thing which really stood out is yes, the contribution of travel and tourism has significantly gone down. It was a very large chunk for Malaysia, right? The dependence of Malaysia on the travel economy is significant. But what we've also seen a bit of that being balanced out by is the expenditure on online shopping and online service purchase. So you almost have the two counteracting forces here, right? Like people are at home, but they still need to buy things, they still need to experience things, so they're getting comfortable with going online and buying it. So from a Google standpoint, like I alluded to it before, we really want to help businesses take hold of this opportunity online, that people are getting more and more comfortable purchasing things on websites, on apps, social commerce for sure. So we want to help businesses get better at that. Really get comfortable with selling online, which, like it or not, a lot of businesses in Malaysia are not. They don't do it. Their online presence is almost non-existent, right? So that's a part of the Mahir Digital coursework is around how do you set up an online presence and how do you get people to be aware that you're selling online is one of the areas we're focusing on.
But how does that work for the travel industry, you know, where you have to almost physically be there?
Yes, yes and no. We were talking about walking tours before, right? Just anecdotally, I was in Jakarta in 2015 for a little while, and I took the first ever free walking tour that Jakarta had. It was by this guy called Jakarta Good Guide, and we stayed in touch. We stayed in touch on Facebook for many years, 5 years after. And today I saw that he's running virtual walking tours. So what he does is he hosts a Zoom call, much like this. There's a very nominal fee. You come online and he uses Google Maps. He uses his own photos. He uses Street View. So if you've ever been on Google Maps, you can actually place a little icon on a street and you can see what the world around looks like in pictures, because we have cars that go around and map the whole place. So he uses that to run walking tours. So he uses maps and Google Earth to show the pictures, and he shares his story, shares his history. There's another guide in Malacca who I eventually did a physical walking tour with. He carries a little phone on a little selfie stick, and he walks around Malacca, and it's a virtual walking tour. He's walking, you're sitting at home and watching, and you're following along. And this is prevalent in most cities in the world. If you just look, people are running virtual experiences. Airbnb is doing it. Small businesses are doing it. So, making the best of a bad situation. So you're inspiring people to come to these places physically when things do open up.
When things do open up. Okay. Some other questions here. This is COVID has really changed the way we all work, and going online is one of those. So do you think that this will significantly change the travel industry? Emily, obviously, I mean, we're booking things online anyway already, but travel agencies still exist. But do you think that they'll be completely, non-existent because of this after a while? Will people ever not need them anymore?
I think for Klook, right, it's an online platform that works with hundreds and thousands of travel suppliers and hospitality partners. We're really only as strong as our partners. So no, I mean, we don't want anybody to go out of business, right? But what we would rather want to see is, I think, an enhanced sense of really collaboration with everybody within the industry. And we've really see that happening in many ways. It used to be that I think the traditional travel agents were kind of focused on really protecting their area, right? But I think this will definitely change moving forward, where consumers definitely would look for content online, and they would search online. They would prefer to reduce physical interaction, and would very much want to ensure that they are able to book things last minute and on the go, and to instead of exchanging cash for a physical ticket, they would very much prefer to use a mobile ticket or a QR code to scan and enter an activity or to redeem a booking at the counter. So I think with all this digitalization and tools have been what Klook has had started the business with very from the start, and it's something that our partners, merchant partners who come on board with us can use for free, and we don't charge them anything for it, right? We come in only we charge a small commission only after a booking has been made, but things like those tools that I mentioned earlier, the technology that we already have are really for everyone to use, right? So even that question that Abdul Rahman asked earlier about how Klook can actually help small businesses. This is definitely one of the ways. The other ways is to empower them and giving them a platform to connect with audiences. Yeah, right now, yes, people may not be able to travel, and smaller travel partners may not have the means or the budget to even spend on things like marketing, or even have a a captive audience that they can speak to, right? But Klook does, and we proactively reach out to them and allow them, to tap into our channels, right? Be it our blog, our social media, or even our in-app live stream capability that we just launched a couple of months ago called Klook Live, right? So that actually is a platform that enables any travel supplier or even a tour guide to come online with us, talk to our audience, right? And do what they normally do, without this pandemic. Yeah. So these are actually some of the ways we have been partnering and working very closely with our industry partners.
Right. So there's a question here from Srida Raghavan. With virtual conferencing becoming prevalent, would it affect business travel even after COVID has been controlled? What do you think? I mean, now that we've found it quite easy to just Zoom, and people are doing all sorts of events on Zoom. I think the Grammys and the Oscars even are going to be online. How does that affect business travel, which is a particularly profitable sector, right, for the travel industry, because companies usually pay a lot more?
Yeah, if fun fact on that. I was reading United Airlines in the US, from San Francisco to China, Apple pays $150 million a year just to fly execs between the two countries, just from SFO to Beijing. They had a sign put up saying, when they started the pandemic, they had a sign in SFO airport saying, this is the amount of money we're going to lose just because people are moving to virtual conferencing just from this one customer alone.
Wow.
So business travel budgets are huge. They are a big contributor to the overall pot of spend on travel. I don't know, honestly. I can speak from personal experience. I can't speak from a Google standpoint. I'm not a fan of the virtual conference. I think it's okay. I think it's convenient. I did my first in-person meeting since lockdown, sometime in RMCO, with a client. It was down the road in Damansara Heights. And I was coming back after the hour-long meeting in a taxi. I was thinking this could have been a 20-minute Zoom call or a Google Meet call, right? So part of me was telling myself, such a waste of time, like getting in a taxi, going all the way, small talk, and then coming back. It could have been much quicker. But then the other half told me, like, I miss that face-to-face interaction with people. So I think what will happen is there'll be certain industries which can pivot a lot easier. So I think tech companies in general are just naturally better positioned to pivot to virtual conferences. That's how it's in our DNA, right? On a daily basis, I have at least 5-6 virtual conferences, even if I was in the office with people in Singapore, people in Tokyo, Australia, India, wherever. I think certain industries like manufacturing can't afford to. You still need to go to your factory, to your supplier, to your, to the place where your product is being made to either have relationships with them or otherwise. But I will say that people are a lot more comfortable doing video calls now than they were before. That applies to, any kind of business, any kind of age group. It's become more of a norm now. But I think it'll largely depend on the nature of the relationship in that business itself. Certain kinds of business travel probably will not come back to actual travel.
Right.
But it's a bit hard to
predict. Budgets would be drastically cut, I suppose.
It's already happened. Yeah, people who are traveling in first now travel in business. People who are traveling in business travel in coach. So there's a lot been published about this, but I don't think anybody actually has a formal answer on what's going to happen with business budgets.
Right. Rohan, one of the more alarming things that you said earlier in your presentation was that in your survey, only 25% of people are actually thinking of domestic travel, and the rest were like, hang on, we'll wait, and not even need. So how do you just to parallel to this is about education, how because so many kids are not in school, they are losing interest in school, and they're not even wanting to to go online. There's a sad story of a teacher who set himself up to do online classes and nobody came. And so I'm just wondering whether for the travel industry, for, you know, you need to keep people inspired to travel. And how do you do that? You know, when you kind of become used to just staying home and, you know, I don't know, the worry is so much that, but we need to recover. We need that. How does that work? What do you think?
So yeah, absolutely. You know, so when we always thought of the traveler's booking journey at Google, when we visualized it, there was always four stages, right? So there's the dreaming stage where you're dreaming of your next trip. There's the planning stage where you're I know Emily like does Excels and
Excel sheet.
spreadsheets of her next trip. I'm just like that. I love planning every last detail of like what I'm doing at what minute on a trip. People don't like traveling with me for that reason. But and then there's the actual booking and experiencing stage, right? Arguably, look, I mean, back in 2019, the amount of time everyone spent in each of those stages was a certain way. That equation has sort of flipped in 2020. You know, people are potentially spending a lot more time dreaming because they can't go anywhere. And when things do open, we find that booking, like when I make a booking today, it's for travel that's very near in the future versus what it used to be before, because they're not sure when regulations will close again. So the need to inspire people to travel has always been there. It's not something new, right? It's always been there. Because right now you're competing with to travel or to not travel. Earlier, you used to compete with Bali or Langkawi, right? Singapore or Tokyo. The competition was between places and not necessarily whether to go or not. So that need to inspire people and show people, you know, this is why you should come here. This is the beauty of the place. Always existed, right? It's nothing new. It's just that now the travel industry has to band together, whether that's airlines, car rentals, you know, marketplaces like Klook, tourism boards, which is why it's so important for the tourism board to get involved and start showcasing places. To actually get people in that mindset of, look, we want to continue exploring when this thing gets over. There are many ways of doing it. I think it's to keep travel top of mind is not easy, but there are ways, very interesting ways of doing it. You know, I found it's also picking up on trends. So HSBC did this wonderful campaign where I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with the concept of ASMR. So it stands for something, but it's basically, you know, when you're watching a video, which, you know, the sounds are sort of amplified, the visuals are sort of amplified. So, you know, when somebody eats a McDonald's crispy chicken, you really hear the crunch, and that sets off a reaction in the brain, right? It stimulates you a little bit. So what they did was HSBC, they created these videos called the sounds of. So sounds of Malaysia, sounds of Singapore, sounds of Tokyo. And we found, interestingly, on YouTube, a lot of people come just to play background concentration music. So it's just white noise that's playing in the background as they work, as they study. And, you know, this was meant to do that. It was essentially just, you know, it's like the Vesper call, the sound of like a mamak, the sound of just a typical market in Petaling Street. And it's just an audio file on YouTube. And it's a lovely experience. You put on your headphones, you feel like you're in the market. So there are many ways, you know, with technology, there are many ways to bring the outside world into your home. You don't have to step out to keep people excited and interested. It's just, do you know how to use it and leverage it? So, you know, Emily was saying live stream. Absolutely. Live streaming has gone off the chart at this point. Everyone's got a camera. Everyone's got something to show. And I don't need to be face-to-face to hear you. So there are many, many ways you can still keep travel top of mind, places top of mind. For travelers, it's just knowing how to do it in the right and best manner.
Right. I mean, having said that, okay, we are inspired to travel and all that, but when it comes down to it, especially for international travel, how do we do it, given that there are so many airlines that have just gone belly up, you know? Emily, you know, what have you heard in the industry? Like, okay, we want to go somewhere, but how do we get there when the options have, you know, become so much less?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm quite confident, right? Travel will resume for sure, right? Sometime in the future. It may not be the kind of travel that we used to know of, right? But we will enter what we call sort of a new travel era, where yes, people's sort of decision-making journey will be a lot longer, where they spend a lot more time dreaming, planning, and really doing that comparing, right? And then finally only come down to really making a decision like, okay, I'm gonna, plan and book this. And I think by that time that happens, whether it's airlines or hotels, they would have already be able to adapt and uh, you know, create or curate an offering that consumers would want by that time. Yeah. So it's, yeah, I think we'll, eventually come to a point where, people will definitely go back out there again, right? Slowly but surely.
I don't suppose either of you can make a prediction of how fast or slow the recovery is going to be. I mean, everything depends. Does everything depend on the vaccine and control of the pandemic? Is that the most crucial factor here?
Largely,
you think?
yes. Largely,
Yeah.
yes. So in the same survey, when we asked, right, like saying if governments were to open up the border tomorrow, right, what's your number one reason for not wanting to travel? Um, 1 in 2 of those respondents said it was COVID-19. You compare that with, and I've got it open here. You compare that with Indonesia. It's only 20%, 25% said that COVID was a problem. So arguably, Malaysia, there are more people worried about the virus itself as a reason for not wanting to travel than a lot of our other counterparts in other parts of Southeast Asia or even APAC for that matter. Look, I think just building on that point that Emily talked about, right? Like it will open in stages. Travel is not going to open today. KLIA is empty. Tomorrow, every carousel is full. It's not going to work that way, right? There are going to be stages of people who need to travel. I can promise you this, right? Like I'll tell you, it's been a year since I've been home, and we've been hoping that the first chance we get, we're going to make a trip home. So the whole visiting friends and relatives group of travelers would probably be the first ones to go because they've, especially expats who've been living abroad, been away from friends, been away from family for a very long time now. And if we cut into 2021, it's going to be a year and a half maybe before we've been home. So it'll come in groups. Business travel will likely be the second. I mean, the last wave to sort of come back, in my opinion. I think leisure will be the first one to sort of recover. And even within leisure, there are going to be very specific groups of people who want to travel internationally at first. And then, like I said, once we all get into a stage where, hey, you know what, going back to India is kind of safe. It's okay. You got to have more people coming through. It's going to be sharing of experiences, and then common consensus will build, and potentially we'll have more people traveling. Right now, if I said 25% want to travel domestically, I don't even want to tell you what that number is for international. I think you can take a guess,
even, right? Yeah.
You can
But
take a guess.
I guess one of the deterrents, I would think, and certainly for me, is the quarantine period. Gosh, if you have to factor in 2 weeks of quarantine when you come back, that is a huge deterrent, and I don't know when that is going to go away.
Absolutely, which is why your travel bubbles are again in phases, right? So we've seen that Australia and New Zealand have a travel bubble that's formed. Both of them have done a fantastic job in controlling the virus by taking very, very drastic measures early on, but have seemingly had results. So they've got a travel bubble that they formed, and people are traveling. People are going between. They want that pent up demand initially is going to be there. What happens 2 months after is the bigger question for me. Initially, that spike will come easy. I'm not even doubting it. What happens post that when everyone's done their first trip, and will it sustain? Will it continue? How long will it continue for? Is the question, right? You have Singapore and Hong Kong who have opened a travel bubble, which
I thought they shut it down already.
Exactly. You had people who were ready to buy tickets, and then Hong Kong cases started going back up. So it's going to be a question of playing ball on both sides, right? Situation, governments, health ministries, so on. So there are a lot of people involved to actually determine how fast or slow this moves. It's not just a question of people being willing to get on. I think consumers are the last people in that chain of decision makers, right? It's
Yeah.
ultimately your government has to let you go in the first place for you to even decide whether you want to get on a plane. Yeah.
Exactly. So we're it's gone by so fast. We're almost at the end now. I just one question, like, if things work out and everything, has become safer and all that, for both of you personally, where would you be looking to travel outside Malaysia? I know you said India, okay, but that's a given because that's home. But if besides that, where would you think of going? I'll let you think. Emily, where would you go?
Well, I don't know how to choose, to be honest, right? I had a long list of travel plans this year that I was supposed to check off, I think just like many of you, right? So it's just so difficult to even pin down one destination that I would love to go to after this pandemic ends. But if I really have to choose one, I would say Japan. Yeah.
Yes.
Because well, yeah, yeah, Japan is great for many things, of course, the culture, the food. But I think at the end of the day, that nervousness that I think many consumers would have about going to a country, right? Is really about, okay, how well did this country actually manage a COVID situation and manage to get everything under control. I think that would play an important factor as to how each country managed to get out of the COVID and how successfully they've done so. And I think Japan is quite exemplary in how they have managed to contain COVID. So I think that itself would actually give a lot of consumers the confidence to return to the country once the travel borders open up again.
Yeah, even before COVID, Japan was very high on, people's, wanting to go to. It's the place that people want to go to. It somehow always feels safe, even before this. Rohan, what about you?
Yeah. So once I'm done with my month-long vacation in India, I had a trip to Bali and I had a trip to Bangkok, both planned this year, which went belly up. But I think I would probably go to Dubai first. We had a long-standing plan. We have some friends there. A long-standing plan to all do a bit of a reunion, which got pushed many times, and unfortunately with COVID. So yeah, that'd probably be the first. Middle East, probably the first place I'd want to go to beyond
Right.
home.
Well, for me, I think I want to go to Dublin because my daughter's studying there and I didn't get to do my usual send my kid to university and organize things for her. So that'll be the first place, besides the fact I've never been there.
Oh,
But
wow.
apart from that, I think it would also be Japan. So we've come to the very end already. Thank you so much, Rohan and Emily, for all your insights. Gives us a little bit of hope that we will be able to move about a bit, but slowly I think we all need to feel confident first. Everyone else, thank you so much for joining us. But before we end, two things. One is that we have a little poll that we'd like you to fill in, and it's now on the screen. So can you please just click the boxes that go with your choices. Just 3 questions so that we know whether to continue this Hello Zafigo in 2021. And once you've done that, I'll just give you a few seconds to do that. It's very quick. And then after that, okay. Okay, has everyone done it? Yeah, especially the topics that you'd like to see us cover for next year. Okay, I hope everyone's filled that in. Very easy. Thank you so much. So now for our final thing, which we like to do, is that we get everyone to switch on their videos or cameras again, so that we can do our usual group photo. And this is the final one for the year. So, smile, big smiles and everything. And Is everyone ready? Where's our camera person?
I'm doing it today.
Oh, you're doing it today.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So is everyone on already? I just see. Yeah, there's a few more. Oh no, they're all our. Well, if you're shy, you don't have to. You don't have to, but be nice. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
We all smile.
So there'll be 2 countdowns, 2 photos. First one, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, another one, 1, 2, 3, smile. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. So everyone, thank you once again for joining us and for listening to Emily and Rohan. Emily and Rohan, thank you so much for all the information that you've shared with us, you know, very fact-based and very reassuring in many ways, especially for those of us who are really itching to get out there. To the rest of you, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you'll join us again. Do look out for our notices on the Zafigo website. We'll also have a recap of this session, and since this was recorded, we'll also have the video up of this session, so you can, if you want to, you know, if you didn't catch everything or you came in late, you can also look it up on the website, which should be in by the middle of next week. And meantime, since this is the last session, it's almost the end of the year, I just want to wish everyone a wonderful end of the year and very early Happy New Year. And I hope 2021 will be so much better for all of us. We definitely need to kind of cancel out 2020 and have a much better, more optimistic year in 2021. So thank you once again, and all the best for everyone. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and everything. Bye.